Deep within the underground confines of Site 1 lies the system to contain unsustainable threats to life and existence. For the SCP Foundation, it represents their last resort, a way to keep things secured, contained, and protected at all costs. And costs are what we will be discussing here on the SCUTTLEcast. Oh, it's a nerd stuff episode. Lucky you. Lucky me. How do you do, fellow kids, and welcome to the SCUTTLEcast for June 2020. This is a nerd stuff episode on SCP Cafe where I will be using words like hypervisor and parallelism. There's no SCP discussion happening on this episode, sad to say. But this is my attempt at complete transparency to patrons, as this is where your money is going. Just to reiterate, Scuttle is the backup system that I've developed in earnest since October that currently backs up 17 wikis, 219 forums, 48,236 users, 69,964 pages, 181,112 forum threads, 329,094 tags, 946,217 revisions, 1,147,110 forum posts, and 2,762,462 page votes. It is the most complete backup of the SCP Foundation and the international wikis in existence, and it costs money to run. So I'm going to be going over the bill here and try and figure out where some costs can be reduced in not just Scuttle, but the other projects that the podcast and the corporation that sort of houses all of it supports that progress things within the wiki. The AWS bill is in for May, and the total was $272.58. That is up significantly from April, which was $203.43. There are a few things I can point to for the cost increase, and very little of it actually had to do with Scuttle itself. It had to do with other projects that are being undertaken in the name of giving us some options on the wiki for both for staff use and for a project that I've picked up in the last 2 weeks or so. So there's a partial charge on here because everything in AWS is billed by the hour. So two things are going on. One, I spun up a proof of concept staff private cloud. And this is a fully encrypted environment where we would be able to host email and encrypted documents. This is different from o5command.com. That's running on shared storage elsewhere and doesn't affect the Scuttle bill at all, actually. That's run out of a different service. But this was using the Nextcloud platform and a COTS solution for email called Mail in a Box, which looked really nice. It includes native integration with Exchange, like you can do active sync on your phone, and then all the other ways you might want to, use your mail, IMAP, POP, etc. is all there. The thing is, what is making me think we're not going to end up doing that is the cost associated, not really so much with the EC2, because that is only about $15 a month on a spot instance, and a reservation could be put in place. So it'd be a little more than a spot, but less than on-demand compute. It's the storage. Elastic block storage is really expensive. They're really proud of it over at AWS. So that by itself is a big chunk. You pay basically 10 cents per gig per per, let me get this right, 10 cents per gig per month of provisioned storage. So if you want a 500 gig drive on an EC2 instance, you're paying $50 a month just for the hard drive to put it on before you've even chosen what instance to use. So when we were looking at it, like, yeah, if it's a mail solution, we can't run this thing on like a 10 gig instance. It's not going to work. So we're looking at other options. We'll probably look at something like Office 365 and try and fund that in a different way. I've been looking at a package, a thing called opencollective.com, where you can do something along these lines. You can post, put the bill up, let people see what the money's going towards, because Office 365 would be kind of the ideal solution, $4 per user per month, and that would give them Exchange, OneDrive, shared SharePoint. So we would get basically the same package. I don't really want to be a SharePoint admin if I can avoid it, but I may not be able to avoid it. That seems like the way to go. So I'm going to be today tearing down this demo site for this private cloud. I might keep an image of it up for the actual OS for like a couple weeks to see if the admins want to do anything with it. But I don't think I'm going to keep it. The other thing that's driving this line item for EC2 going up is I have another Spot instance that is being used to power my own instance of Wikidot. This is something that I've been working on for a couple of weeks, trying to get Wikidot from its open source version that was put out on GitHub around 2008 and a virtual machine that was made from it around 2009 working in the year of our Lord 2020. It's been really informative. I've learned a lot about how Wikidot works. That's running on a Spot instance. That's currently an R5N large. That's 2 cores and 16 gigs. On demand, that thing would be $107 a month. On a Spot instance, it's only $15. The trade-off is it's only up for, as long as they've got spare compute. Usually when you just need one instance, Spot instance is safe, unless you're going with something in really high demand. And there's usually, you can look when you're sort of scouting out which instances to use. It'll tell you what the average usage rate is and what your likelihood is of the instance being interrupted. For my purpose, I don't care if the instance is interrupted right now since it's not doing any prod traffic. But I can also bring this guy down. I'm gonna downsize it. I'm not getting rid of the instance because I'm actually making great progress. But it's $15 a month on a Spot instance. I don't need 16 gigs of RAM. It doesn't look like, even with Postgres being on board and Memcached being on board. So I think I can drop that all the way down to like a T3 small or maybe even a T3 micro. And then we're looking at a charge closer to like $2 or $4 a month. So just those two things are going to knock off probably $40 off the bill for June. Next line item is RDS, Relational Database Service. I have a little bit I can do here. There's a $5.61 charge for backups exceeding the free allocation. I don't have anything in the backups right now that I can't live without, and Scuttle exports its backups to S3, so I feel pretty confident there that there's I can get rid of those and not have any consequences at all. The rest of that charge is $26.78 for a single T3 small running Postgres. That is the Scuttle database server, and $11.50 for provisioned GP2 storage of 100 gigs. The backups compress really nicely, but this is probably a good number to leave it at for now. So, we're only talking about knocking about $5 and change off the bill, but it's worth doing for sure. One other thing I could do is put that on a reserved instance. That charge is currently 3.6 cents per hour. Getting that on a reservation for a T3 small looks like it would drop that down to 2.6 cents. So a penny per hour doesn't sound like a ton, but that's, one penny, 24 hours a day, 30 days a month. It does add up. That would basically add, that'd take off another $7.20. But the trade-off there is that I am committed to using that thing for the next year. And that could go one of two ways. Either the thing's going to be more than I need down the road if we decide to do something different. Either, bring in the Postgres in-house where I could do it cheaper, or if it ends up being too small where I end up needing a T3 large or moving on to something else, an R5 or something, and then I'm stuck with this reservation. You can try and sell them, but that's not always going to work out. So that's kind of the trade-off, is like that $7.20 a month is the cost of your flexibility. And if you are, really trying to save, you can actually pay the entire thing up front, and you can pay that up front as far out as 3 years and get a ton off your bill. You can basically get it all the way down to about 1.7 cents an hour if you average it out over the year. So you're looking at like $12 a month. That's, pretty damn good. But you have to have the work, the use case for your product for that to make sense. So what do I do here? Right now, I'm not comfortable locking in a reservation for a year. I think I will just kind of deal with the $7 charge as the cost for not having to commit to going one way or another for a year, and just kind of eat it and move on. Next line item on here is SQS. This is Amazon's simple queue service. Scuttle uses this to schedule jobs for AWS Lambda to handle. So Lambda is serverless execution. It's a set of Python scripts that I've written called 2stacks, and each of those does a very specific thing. It'll go get the votes for a page and who voted, extract with regular expressions, the usernames and blah, 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 and post it back to Scuttle along its APIs. SQS is sort of the glue in the middle that for Laravel to kick off these jobs, it basically posts a message to SQS and it says, hey, SQS, in this queue, I want you to put a message, and it's got a few variables, the wiki that we're looking at, the ID of whatever it is, and, maybe a third thing depending on which queue it is. And from there, SQS will hold that until Lambda is ready for the next message. And each script is tied to a particular queue, and SQS is ready to feed it as it is available for taking on more work. I used SQS apparently to the tune of about 49 million requests in May. So that's split out into its... they have two tiers of SQS, depending on what you need and how sensitive the data is. If you need first in, first out messaging, where a message is guaranteed to only hit the queue once, if you've got really expensive things, and a few of those are more computationally expensive or larger, you use those, and they're 20% more expensive than their base tier, which every message will arrive at least once, but it may arrive more than once, and they won't arrive in any particular order. That is what the bulk of the Lambdas run on, and that those requests were fired 45,694,306 times. Now, a request, I believe, also includes deletes, so I think this is like twice as much as what I'm actually using, but you have to just kind of live with that as part of it. There are maybe some things I could do here. what I would have to do is find some of these jobs where I'm attaching one message per, let's say per article or per thread on a forum, and find ways to batch those and have Lambda iterate through a batch list within the context of the Lambda. So fewer executions of the Lambda, but they're more expensive because they're going to be doing multiple things at once. I avoided that because doing it this way, an interruption in service or a Lambda failing only affects a single atomic object, a vote, a page, a revision, whatever. But this is the trade-off of that route is the bill for the queuing service goes up. I haven't really explored rolling my own here with like a RabbitMQ or switching to Amazon's other MQ services. I don't know if the juice is really worth the squeeze there. I'd have to re-engineer a lot of stuff, and what we are talking about is like a $19 line item charge here. So I'm undecided whether it would really be worth the time, because we might be knocking off like $3 or $4, but now there's a whole other server to have to manage. Next one on the list is Lambda. 12,412,033 requests for a total of about 1.27 million gigabyte seconds of Lambda compute. The way that Lambda is set up, you have to specify how much RAM your little containerized script gets. And these are all at the very bottom, which is 128 megs. So for that to happen, that 1.27 million gigabyte seconds, that means it was actually 8 times that in real time. So I considered this like, can I break Lambda out? Can I do these in-house? Can I just have the Scuttle server fire these Python scripts? The answer is maybe. What'll happen is if those are all seconds where the cores are actually busy, and Scuttle's web servers is a T3, it's burstable compute, I would burn through that burstable credits, and that could get really pricey really quick. I think it would exceed the Lambda charges pretty quickly. That's not to say I couldn't do something with an EC2 instance and just have it be a Lambda box, but at $16.79 for the entire charge, I think it would be a wash. It would be pretty close. And what I would really need is more CPU than memory here. And AWS is really proud of its higher core density instances. They're all expensive. I do have a charge in here, $28.82 for data transfer. I believe this is just the sum data in and out of Scuttle, and some of this is the traffic of Scuttle going out to store backups in a secure location. This charge is $28.15, and that is for 2,809.8 gigs of data transferred in a month. So it's pretty expensive. It's a penny per gig for data transfer in, out, or between EC2 availability zones. So I'm not sure what, if anything, can be done there. I'm not paying for Amazon Super Duper support package to have them take a look and determine, what I could do to improve this charge. It is on my list of things to actively try and scout, because if this is something where I've misconfigured something, then that's one thing. If it is what I think it is, it's either, stuff backups going out to S3, or this is stuff from the Lambdas actually coming in, then there's not much I can do about it. If it is the Lambdas, I suppose that would be another argument in favor of having the web server handle the Python execution, or having a dedicated, little Python bitch server to go run those scripts, and have it be in the same subnet I don't think I would get any charges there, because then it's all within the same AZ, same subnet, all that good stuff. So that's something I'm gonna look at. Next line item on here, that's nice. Next item on here is ElastiCache, $12.65. That is about as cheap as you can get one of those servers, short of doing a reservation, which I may actually do in this case. I think I will make use of an ElastiCache server for the foreseeable future. This is a T3 micro, and that's at 1.7 cents an hour for a total of $12.65. This is me testing the Scuttle's possibility as a front-end server for, if we are looking at something to replace Wikidot, can the Laravel framework do what it says it can, where you can have multiple web servers and they all get their session data from Memcached. And it turns out that, yes, of course, it can do that. The framework is really good about that. So I can have the same, bring up any number of servers, and as long as they're all pointing to the same Memcache location, session data it's all stateless. It doesn't matter which server you hit. So that's really nice, and it is something I'm happy with that charge. I could bring that down a little bit by in-housing it, but I'd rather not. ElastiCache is not that much more expensive for all of the benefits that it gives you. I did just put in the order for a reserve node there, so that'll drop that charge in the future from 1.7 cents to 1.2. That'll lock about $3.50, 60, 70 cents off the bill for next time around. Next one on here is S3, Amazon's simple storage service. That is almost entirely Scuttle stuff. Backups 358.9 gigs. And any requests in and out get charged at like half a cent per 1,000, so I'm not too worried about that. That's like 12 cents. The 358 gigs works out to an $8.26 charge. I'm okay with those numbers. I'm not really prepared yet to do anything like intelligent tiering or moving them into a slower archive. I do have a charge in here for Glacier Deep Archive. That is a personal charge that I basically bill myself for, to the tune of $3.59, and that's my personal backups of all my shit. And that's done at $1 per terabyte per month. So that's a nice little thing if you can figure out how to work it. What else do we have in here? We're down to single-digit lines. Route 53, their DNS service, has a charge of $1.04, 50 cents per hosted zone, and 110,000 DNS queries. So that's partially rated too. It's 40 cents per billion DNS queries. So until you're getting super popular, Route 53 is a really, really cheap way to manage DNS if you need that enterprise grade uptime, because they are super, super robust in that regard. So that's pretty much it. Overall, I think there's a little bit of room for improvement. I'm hoping to get the bill back around 210 for June. I'll be happy if I can get it around there. So that's where things are going. If I had to calculate this as pure Scuttle charges, that number looks to be about $151.57. The one thing I really want to see if I can figure out is this data transfer line item. If there's anything that can be done to bring that down. Aside from that, and closing out a couple of test projects and letting other people pay for them, things look pretty good. There's reservations where I think I can safely do them. And I'm trying to keep things, lightweight. Sometimes it makes more sense to do a managed service than have the extra overhead of trying to do it yourself. There's the possibility, if I, really wanted to try and bring RDS in-house, run Postgres on an EC2, that's doable. I just would really rather not. RDS has a lot of advantages as far as automatic backups and snapshots and everything being really, really easy, as well as making it easy to, do upgrades, everything in a really nice, orderly manner. So that's where we're at. Hope if anybody actually listened to this, God bless you. I mean, this is a lot of me just sort of, grunting, staring at the bill and going, just trying to figure out where it's all going. But maybe that was somewhat useful on how some of the different pieces interact. So thanks. We'll do this again July 1st, and I will see you tomorrow for SCP Cafe as scheduled. Goodbye, fellow kids.